On June 11, 323 BC, Alexander the Great departed from this life. After his demise in Babylon, his remains continued to be a source of conflict, mystery, and intrigue. Although his body and tomb are no longer with us, the legend around them endures, and researchers are continuously looking for signs pointing to their location. However, how did all of this start? Why did the archives of Alexander's tomb suddenly disappear? We will try to address this question and explore the background of Alexander's tomb in this two-part video. This is the tale of Alexander's tomb and body. Chaos broke out as soon as Alexander passed away, leaving his body unattended in the hot Babylonian sun for several days while the Macedonians quarreled over the future of the empire. According to legend, they returned to the corpse and, to everyone's surprise, discovered it to be in perfect condition, unaffected by decay. Alexander's body was then embalmed and deposited in a gilded coffin by Perdiccas, the highest-ranking commander in Babylon. Alexander's body stayed in Babylon for the next 2 years as Perdiccas and his adherents managed the creation of a funeral cortege that was unmatched by anything the world had ever seen. The chariot was plated in gold and fashioned to resemble a grand temple, with exquisite Ionic columns surrounded by paintings of Alexander and his army. 64 mules, each with a bell and a golden crown, were to pull it. After it was finished, Perdiccas gave the order for Alexander's body to be brought back to Aige, the Macedonian king's customary resting site in Macedonia. Still, the idea was a complete failure. Understanding the immense wealth and potential of his territory, Ptolemy, the governor of Egypt, quickly became ambitious and eager to usurp Perdiccas' authority. Taking control of Alexander's body, a superhuman talisman symbolizing legitimacy and authority in this new post-Alexander world, seemed to be the way he would do this. The person in charge of the body had a lot of power. Perdiccas had taken care to keep the body safe, but Ptolemy still needed a bold plan. Alexander's ornate funeral carriage traveled from Babylon to Macedonia in 321 BC. However, Ptolemy intervened while the procession was passing through Syria, paying the escort, taking possession of the body, and rerouting it to Egypt, where he had Memphis, the ancient Egyptian capital, housed. Perdiccas was incensed because his legitimacy as regent had been seriously undermined. For Ptolemy, on the other hand, Alexander's army grew exponentially as troops from all over the world joined him. Immediately, Perdiccas led his army into Egypt with the intention of regaining control of the body and reestablishing his dominance. Ptolemy won the subsequent war, which is chronicled in our documentary and available to see here, and Perdiccas was killed. It was Ptolemy who now had Alexander's body securely. He was the first of the Diadochi to place Alexander's image on their coins and to emphasize that Alexander was a favorite of his. He soon started announcing the connection between himself and Alexander. Instead of claiming that Alexander was the son of Philip of Macedon, Ptolemy fostered a regional legend about him in his narrative of the conquest of Asia. The story that Alexander was the son of Nectambo II, the final Egyptian pharaoh, quickly spread throughout Egypt. Nectambo, who had died in exile, had been overthrown by the Persians in 343 BC. Thus, his prefabricated sarcophagus in Memphis had stayed empty. Alexander was probably first placed in an empty coffin by Ptolemy, and that's where this amazing tale started. This story served to establish Alexander as Nectambu's legitimate succession, since an Egyptian pharaoh could only be considered legitimate if he was related to his predecessor. Additionally, it created a link between the Egyptian and Macedonian kingdoms, which aided Ptolemy's cause. Ptolemy started propagating the rumor that he was Alexander's half-brother because he was Philip II's illegitimate offspring at the same time. Both tales quickly gained popularity and contributed to Ptolemy's establishment of power in Egypt, in large part because of his deft use of Alexander's body. After the pivotal Battle of Ipsus in 301 BC, Alexander's body was relocated to the heart of Ptolemy's new capital, Alexandria, and interred in an ornate new tomb. Although Alexander had founded the city in 331 BC, it had not been finished until recently. Ptolemy started spreading Alexander's praise right away. In addition to formally recognizing Alexander as the founder of Alexandria, he also established a state cult of Alexander across Egypt. Numerous sculptures of the great conqueror were placed all over the place, and celebrations and processions honoring him also emerged. The year of Ptolemy I's death was 283 BC. Ptolemy's descendants would rule Egypt for the next 150 years, and the great king's memory was essential to their dynasty. Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, had his father deified and worshipped with Alexander very immediately after his death. The message was clear. These two rulers were intertwined in life and death. In addition, Philadelphus founded the Ptolemaia, a new religious celebration held every 4 years in remembrance of his father. Thousands of people attended this festival, not just from Egypt, but from all around the Greek world. Luckily for us, there is a description of the 275 to 274 BC Ptolemaia stage that has survived. Called the Splendid Procession of Ptolemy Philadelphus, it was an opulent parade that wound through Alexandria's center. Ptolemaic Egypt was characterized by an abundance of wealth, splendor, and power, as seen by the presence of soldiers, animals, gems, gold, and images of gods, particularly Dionysus. The focal point of the parade was Alexander. Initially, a large float containing his statue and a second statue of the now deified Ptolemy I, both of them adorned with gold diadems made of ivy leaves, appears. Then came a golden statue of Alexander, pulled by 4 elephants in a chariot flanked by god sculptures. This procession served as a reminder to those in the audience not only that Alexander's body was found in Alexandria, but also of the close connection that existed between it and the Ptolemies. About 215 BC, Ptolemy IV, Philopator, moved Alexander's body to a new royal burial complex in an effort to highlight this connection even more. Soon after, because of its primary exhibits, it was referred to as the Soma, or the body. This new mausoleum was undoubtedly magnificent to look at, possibly influenced by the well-known Mausolus tomb at Halicarnassus. The structure might have been circular in shape as well, which may have served as inspiration for Hadrian and Augustus's massive monuments. Alexander's body was buried inside the enclosure in a chamber beneath the Ptolemies' remains, highlighting the Ptolemies and Alexander's closest probable relationship. In short order, the Soma became a symbol of Alexandria. Travelers would come from far and wide to Alexander's city and its magnificent treasures. It served as a pagan pilgrimage site. However, no monarchy can last indefinitely, and the Ptolemaic dynasty had diminished to nothing more than a shadow of its previous might by the start of the 1st century BC. Its unrest was so severe that King Ptolemy X had to commit the unimaginable in 89 BC. In an attempt to replace Alexander's golden coffin with a glass one, he melted it down in order to obtain the money necessary to pay his hired soldiers. Nevertheless, Ptolemaic authority kept eroding, and in 70 years another force would come to control Alexandria. Rome was a state that was likewise highly interested in Alexander's tomb, but for quite different reasons.